Hello, Feminine Roadmappers. Welcome back to Feminine Roadmap Podcast, the podcast that helps you navigate the challenges and the changes of midlife and empowers you to live a more vibrant second half. If you find yourself on YouTube, my friends, please ring that bell and subscribe so you don't miss any more of these powerful conversations. If you're on a podcast platform, please subscribe, rate, and share this podcast. Today, I'm speaking to my guest, Denise Belisle. She empowers men and women 50 and over to rock their midlife and to move from crisis to oasis. Denise Belisle is a serenity expert. Denise, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much, Gina. It's such an honor to be invited by you and to be part of your podcast. And I hope I can bring great value to your listeners, because I know that, you have a great follower-ship. And then, I just want to give them as much as I can of what I know.
Yes. You know what? Serenity and calm, your conversation around from crisis to oasis. I think a lot of times we think about crisis in a large setting, right? But sometimes crisis can be those little things that build up in our life. And I'd love to hear what led you to this mission and message of helping people in midlife move from crisis to oasis.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And just to come back just quickly before I start about what you said, it's just accumulation of little things. Mm-hmm. And I call that sustained stress. It's like you're in a state of, it's not a big stress. You're not like you're pulling your hair out, but then it's all the little stress that we encounter that we don't deal with, that we don't pay attention to. And what led me to do what I do is when I started to do, years of experimentation on myself for health and well-being, wanting to stay younger, wanting to stay vibrant, wanting to have an attitude of positive attitude and never grow old. So that was my goal from when I was in my 20s. And so what led me to study, to read, to be curious, to look at what's the next best thing, that doesn't cost any money, but I can do for myself. So I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, Sugar, I have a little trouble with that, but I know it's not good for me. Right now I'm not eating sugar, so I can say I don't eat sugar. And but then I discovered initially emotional intelligence in the 90s when it came out. And then I could like read all the books that would come my way about that. I was so passionate by that, because then I realized that the power of my brain over what's going on with me. Like before that, I was just like, okay, life is the way it is and all that. But then when you realize that you have a choice, you have a choice on how you want to react. You have a choice of what you want to say to people. And you have a choice to get upset or be happy. You have a choice to threaten people or to help them. You have a choice to, in your life, everything like, and then I took on myself to be 100% responsible for what happened to me. And that was a big shift, huge shift, because then no more you will hear me say it's not my fault. No, I don't remember saying that. Like I say it in podcasts when I talk, but in life, I'm never going to say it's not my fault, because I don't see it this way. I see that, life is, life happened for me and not to me. So whatever happened, there's always a gift in there. There's always something I can learn, something I can move forward. And then the last couple of years, I've been studying positive intelligence, which for me is the cherry on the sundae of emotional intelligence. And the reason why is positive intelligence is teach you a way not only to recognize your emotion, which is fine, but also to learn how to, because our emotions are mostly led by saboteurs. And that's the basis of positive intelligence. You have the saboteurs, the judge, and then you have the sage that has power that helps you grow and feel positive. So the negative emotion often come from our saboteurs. We might be a controller, and then when things don't go our way, we get upset. We might be a stickler, and when people don't place things where they belong, then you get angry, and you don't, and if they give you a paper to review and it's all full of typo, and it's like, what, all these things, and there's 9 of those saboteurs. I won't name them all, we'll be here all day. But once you learn how to recognize them and then be able to to, with the sage, what I see the sage as is a field force, a force field in English, right? A force field where those emotions come to you and you're protected. You say, I'm aware that this emotion is there, and I choose consciously to not react. Or I choose to react. You're allowed, to get upset or to do, but it depends on the circumstances. But it's your choice, as opposed to let these emotions get to you, and then you're like, ah, and then you go, off the deep end, and you get very angry. And so for the last 25 years, I've been working with emotional intelligence and then now positive intelligence. And it literally changed the way I see my life, the way I react with people, the way I interact. And my clients, I mean, they make tremendous changes in their life because all the knowledge I can bring to them and help them get there. And so they don't have to study for 25 years. They can do it in 6 months, right?
Yeah.
That makes a huge difference.
It's really interesting when you think about the way that we learn to live, the tools that we gather when we're younger, right? And we have a reason that we have learned to do things a certain way, depending on the environment that we were raised in, right? Yeah. And those tools, while they might have been effective in their own way, what I hear you saying is, we don't have to carry those tools around and continue to repeat those patterns throughout life. There is a wiser and better way for all of us. Yeah. Most people have some kind of coping mechanism, or we call it like our wall, our protective shield, right? And sometimes the awareness of that, actually always the awareness of it, allows us that opportunity for change, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I always say the first step is awareness. So what I do with my clients, I have a saboteur assessment. So you go online on the Positive Intelligence website and you do a saboteur assessment. What that does is it tells you who are your top saboteurs. A lot of time people read that and say, oh my goodness, it's like right on the nail, and then that's awareness. First is you become aware. Oh, that's why I get angry when this happened, because my controller of whatever, my saboteur, or my victim is like, feel like I'm victimized, or my avoider, I don't want to talk about it. Let's get out of here, So there's all these personality that comes up, and then you say, oh, now I understand. So once you have the awareness, then you can move forward and say, okay, I acknowledge that this is my saboteurs that used to protect me as a child. And I love that you said that, right? Because these personality, they come up because of a reason of protection when you're younger. Like the kids that the little boy that loses his dad, for example. And then what does 95% of mothers say to the oldest son when the dad goes away? Now
you have to be the man of the house.
So what does that do? Hyperachiever, right? I got to perform. I got to do well. I got to provide for my family. I'm going to get a job, do papers. I'm going to, like it becomes an hyperachiever. So I think if we were to interview 90% of the hyperachievers, because they felt a need when they were kids to provide and to help out and to be there. And that stays with them forever, right? Which could be a good trait, because he's usually successful. But at the same time, hyperachievers are never satisfied. They always have to go for the next one, always have to go for the next one. They're not happy where they are. It's always, oh, I got to do this, I got to have the next promotion. I got to. So that's why when you're young, just like you said, you are preconditioned for moving forward in life with those. But there come a time where you're independent, you're grown up, you're able to stand on your 2 feet, and that's time to really let go of your saboteurs and develop your sage, which is being more curious when there's a problem, being more innovative, being, thinking of how would that matter 20 years from now? It won't matter. So why do I put so much pressure on myself because of this right now, right? So there's all these gifts that we can look at problem differently, and we can celebrate victory also differently, and really rejoice when something great happened.
Mm-hmm. When you're talking about, those kind of roles that end up being on our shoulders as children sometimes, not always, but,
Yeah.
it happens. There's a certain children want to please, right? And so we don't have that ability to filter what's being said to us. And I think even if overachieving has its benefits, I think anything we do things out of duty as children. And if we were very dutiful as children, that carries into adulthood. And I was thinking about, and I would love your perspective on this, your message of crisis to Oasis. I think when we live so deeply in that duty and we're living for the approval or the appeasement of others, that is a source of crisis in some way, because not in a selfish way, but we have a design. I believe we've all been designed for a purpose. And I think the closer that we walk in alignment for the way we've been designed with the right motive, meaning not always trying to prove ourselves or not always trying to get approval, because that can be a sort of crisis in itself. Am I right?
Yeah, I think so. Because once when you don't do things for yourself, because I have, I often do a talk about the 3 levels of relationship. And the first one and the most important one is the I, right? It's the relationship you have with yourself. And if you're not comfortable walking in your own shoes, nobody else will be able to make you walk, right? So the first thing you need to do is if you don't like something, ask yourself why first, because sometimes it's because we're afraid to get out of our comfort zone, right? So there's different ways. But if you're very uncomfortable with a situation, if you live in an abusive relationship, or if you live in an abusive relationship at work, right? Or if you live in in situations that are really not comfortable, well then, stop being a doormat, right? And I was listening to Stefan Neff, who's a self-compassion expert. And she was saying today, and who said that? I don't remember who said it. She was quoting someone, and now I forgot who said that. Oh, Betty White. And Betty White says, instead of they're saying grow balls, grow a vagina, because women are so much stronger, like you can hit the vagina, you can hit it, it will sustain pain and it can move on. But a guy, you hit his ball, so I like that. Betty White, she said, grow a vagina. Like, get strong and make the decisions that are for your well-being and for mentally and physically, right? You got to make those decisions and move in that direction where you got to get out of that crisis. It's not easy because we've been conditioned, as we were talking before, it's like the level of stress, little stress, above stress. But after a while, that package of stress, it's sort of, in some way a comfort zone, because I know you have that, but at least I know it's there. I know what I'm getting into. But then once you start peeling it off like onions, right? And you remove the layers of stress and you remove one and the other, and eventually you find yourselves like, oh, wow, if I've known that before, I would have done it way, way earlier. But then it's okay because it was your path. But don't live in that level of stress and crisis, because it's not normal. Some people think, well, it's just the way my life is. Well, it doesn't have to be. So you can shift from crisis to oasis. And I see that in relationship with couples. Couples have been together for 25, 30 years. Let's say they get married when they're 30. So they get into their 60s and they feel that a lot of them, because they've been together for so long, may as well stay together and do our own thing and whatever, and they're not happy. Right? So that's a crisis. That's something that is not healthy. But the oasis would be, hey, let's move on. Let's just, we both have our career, we've had our money, and we're not happy. So why are we staying together? Or what can we do to bring back the spark? What can we do to really, like, look at us? We're going to retirement now. And why don't we start with a fresh slate and just say, hey, how do we want our life to be now? We used to be really happy. What happened? So there's both are possible, but it's a choice that they have to talk with one another and decide, and then go from crisis to oasis, whichever side that is. There are possibility to bring back the spark, as I say, right, in their life, or choose that it's not it anymore and they need to move on. But it's again, awareness, consciousness, you have to know where you are in order to know where you're going.
It gets complex, doesn't it? Because our saboteur can be undermining our marriage, undermining our job, undermining our relationship as well. It's like we can think it's the other person. We can think it's the situation, especially if you're a victim, right? It's always.
But then it's again, be 100% responsible. You can't say it's not my fault anymore.
Exactly. Right? And there's such power. It's humbling to take full responsibility, but that's where the power comes from as well, I think.
Yeah, of course. Because then you say, hey, if I'm responsible for an unhappy relationship, then I'm responsible. So if I want a happy relationship, what do I have to do to bring happiness into the marriage? Not sit back and say, well, he doesn't bring me flowers anymore. Like, well, he doesn't love me anymore. He doesn't do anything for me anymore. But what if you say, hey, what can I do for him that will make him feel special? What can I do in my relationship that will bring back a spark here and there? What can I do that will, make us giggle? Because sometimes couples don't giggle anymore. They just coexist, right? So if you take 100% responsible, then you are the one responsible for making the marriage work. But then as you move forward, conversation come along because you start talking, and then you have a feedback from the other person that says, hey, that could be fun, to be together. I was like, what? I just don't feel it. And then you have to, decide what you want to do, but you have to start yourself. Praise people instead of complaining. As I always mention, it's like when you point, well, we heard that, right? When you point the finger to someone, there's 3 pointing my way. But if I tend my hand, then all 5 fingers goes towards the other. And I give with love. I give without expectation. I give because I love. And whether it's received or not, it doesn't matter. Because when you give, your heart is full. When you expect something in return, then you give halfway. You don't give because you really love. You give because you want something back.
It's funny. Recently, I was talking to another person, and we were talking about how our expectations really cause ourselves suffering.
Oh yeah.
We hang ourselves up on our own expectations, and it's in the I think the lie of there's healthy expectations, and then there's the expectations that we hold people accountable to that they know nothing about, right? And it is a little bit unfair because I was counseling someone in marriage, and we were talking about, okay, you have 2 people with expectations, and here we are in midlife. We've, as wives and mothers and business owners and everything, and those living up to those expectations was fine, but there's a shift sometimes where we have to go, okay, I have expectations. They have expectations. Whose expectation gets to quote unquote win? I think if we can move away from that competitive expectation game, I think that crisis can minimize enough for us to be able to see that 2 people, because we're talking about marriage in this particular situation, we both have needs and wants and things to bring and things we would like to receive.
Yeah.
And so I think expectations need to be, for me, my expectations I found were a source of suffering. And sometimes, back to the whole pre-programming, sometimes expectations come even with those ways we were pre-programmed.
Yeah.
They're almost a protection. I found that they were almost a protection for me sometimes. The expectations were a form of control, I suppose.
Yeah, I can see that, and then you had one of your saboteurs that would like protect you and then make you feel that, like you had expectation, then you get disappointed, and then you feel a bit like a victim. And then, like if you put it all in perspective, right? But what I've learned that was so funny, I was in a relationship starting it was a 10 years relationship 20 years ago, starting 20 years ago. And the person I was with, he was totally unreliable, like he would say, okay, we'll do this tonight, I'll pick you up, or let's, whatever, do this, do that, or and then he would just not show up.
Wow.
And then the first little while I was falling down into pieces, right? I was like, what the hell? He doesn't love me. In the end, I realized other things. But anyway, but then what that taught me, which is super awesome, so I'm grateful for that relationship, what it taught me is to always have a plan B. So if plan A was us getting together and doing something, plan B was, if that didn't happen, right away in my memory, that's okay, I'll be doing that, right? Then this way I cut all expectation. And when I started to do that, I was so much happier in love with myself, because living in disappointment, living in anger, living in so in feeling that are, not good enough, and, being despair, victim, everything you could think of. But instead I apply my own medicine. I say, okay, I got to be responsible for how I feel. So that's when I was starting to apply, positive emotional intelligence. And I say, okay, I'm not responsible for him not showing up. I can't help it, but I'm responsible for the way I react when he doesn't show up. So I can choose to be angry and cry and feel a victim, or I can say, loser, I'm gonna have a great time on my own. You don't know what you're missing. I didn't say loser, but sometime I did. But
well, and that's the journey that you took that was authentic.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Because if you
all dressed up, nowhere to go, let's go somewhere. So I learned so much from that.
That's an incredible analogy for like our mental space, right? Like thinking about, you dress yourself up and you behave a certain way, right? You're showing up a certain way, and the world doesn't receive that for whatever reason, your environment or your work or whatever. I love that shift of like, okay, I'm all dressed up with nowhere to go. What can I do? It's almost like I'm worthy. This doesn't define me, I guess is what I'm thinking. It's it's coming to me as we're talking, but it's like, I'm all dressed up with nowhere to go is the equivalent to, I'm not being understood or maybe accepted or received.
I'm not,
Then I'm going to choose a different environment, relationship, whatever. Yeah. So, I'm all dressed up. This isn't working. I'm going to go somewhere. I'm going to be in an environment or in a relationship or something that is more in alignment. And I think isn't that just the growth journey as adults, though, absolutely, Denise? Absolutely. Is that you said like the layers of an onion, we're hopefully constantly growing, and it's such a complex experience. And don't you find that everybody's journey is different? So when we share these things, they're like these principles that each person has to apply appropriately, right? And I think, is pleaser one of these saboteurs?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a pleaser. Being a coach, being 20 years doing body work, being a Reiki masters, and I've been like, for me, giving is easy, but when the pleaser is not, like, what I realized, especially since I study positive intelligence, is when I realized the pleaser, it's okay to be a giver. But when you give and have resentment, that's when you have to question yourself, right? If somebody asks me to do something and I say yes, but I don't really want to do it, then I'm like, I get resentment. So then my pleaser is taking over. You gotta say yes. They're asking you gotta say yes. But when I change my way of being, I often have people coming here just for gathering and have like 6, 7, 8 friends coming here, and we have potlucks and things like that. But eventually it just became, we're going to go to Denise. It's a default, right? And then I would end up like cleaning up and this and that, cleaning up before, cleaning up after. So I was feeling resentment. But then once I made peace with that, and I said, okay, whenever I say yes, that's because I want them to be there. And then I open my house with open arms, and then I say, yeah, come on in and let's have a party. And then guess what? I educated them to bring your dishes back in the kitchen. Who would want to do the dishes tonight? Just like delegate. It's like, hey, I can be a guest in my own home. It's not because I'm offering the space that I have to do everything.
And that's that piece of speaking your truth, right? Like being willing to be uncomfortable enough to ask for that partnership in your home. Like, please put your own dishes, scrape the food off, put them in the kitchen. That is a huge growth point for a lot of people.
It's taking control. Right? I took control over my resentment and saying, hey, what bugs me really is when the evening end and there's dishes all over the living room and the kitchen, and it's like, oh my God, just bring it in the kitchen. Just that, right? Just pick up the crumbs on the floor. If you eat and you drop stuff on the floor, just clean it up,
Yeah.
That's easy.
That is one of the biggest, I think, opportunities for a lot of people moving from crisis to oasis, to your point. Is speaking up. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to. It's best not to do it when you're in a resentful state, but learning how to say, this makes me uncomfortable, or it would really help me if, or would you mind, that is such a huge area of opportunity for so many women, especially, I think. Just in terms of relationship.
Absolutely.
That's a problem that we have.
And learning to speak in the I, as opposed to say, you make me upset, or you do this, I get upset and this and that. It's like, hey, I'm uncomfortable with this situation. How can we resolve that? I am uncomfortable. I get upset because I'm uncomfortable. I'm pissed off. It's not you that makes me pissed off. And then that goes back taking 100% responsibility, right?
And it's empowering because it allows you choices, doesn't it?
Yeah. I don't say it's easy initially.
No.
The more you do it, the more you do it, then it gets easier. And sometimes if you need to take a step back, say, listen, I don't feel well right now emotionally. I need a timeout. Let me absorb what's going on right now. Let's talk in a few minutes. And sometimes it might be easier. And then ask your partner to be, whomever is in front of you, to understand that and to respect that, right? Not to push, create an understanding between you and the person in front of you that, listen, I want to talk about something right now, and I feel that I'm getting really emotional and I don't want to be there. So let me take a minute, resource myself. And in positive intelligence, we say, bring my sage, let me bring my sage with me, so that I can, use some of those powers to really strengthen me. And then, do a few meditation technique that we have with positive intention to recenter yourself and to diffuse the negative emotion, because we shouldn't be angry more than 2 minutes, really. After that is your brain is being hijacked. Having a 2 minutes of, and then after 2 minutes, like, okay, that was not fun. And then calm down, and then you can converse. And sometimes it could take you 10 minutes if you're not used to it, but don't stay angry for the rest of your life about a situation. That's just, taking a poison pill and hoping the other one gets sick, right?
You talk about this idea of relationships and speaking our truth and not being upset. I think that it can be scary to turn and face these things that have, quote, protected us for so long. So what kind of tools do you think that my audience might be able to benefit from? Something quick, easy. Do you have a couple of tips that maybe they could use if they find themselves, they're hearing you talk about them and you've never met them, they're like, oh, I do that. Yeah.
How does she know?
Yes. How does she know that I do that? Was she watching me?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of you out there.
So what are a couple of things that if somebody is used to maybe flying off the handle or shutting completely down, what kind of tool can bring them to the present, to a more healthy and authentic way of showing up instead of a protective coat.
In positive intelligence, we call that doing PQ rep, which is positive quotient reps, which are little exercise that allows you to recenter yourself. It could be as simple as taking a few deep breaths. And then for those that are looking at the screen, but I'll describe it, is you rub your thumb and your index, and you can do it with both hands. And then you focus on the ridges of your finger while you have your eyes closed. Focus on the ridges of your finger. Try to feel all the little fingerprints that are there. And you do that for a minute, and just breathe and close your eyes and focus on the ridges. So what does that do? It makes your mind think of something else than the anger you're with. So in hindsight, that's an exercise we do positive intelligence, but in hindsight is take a few deep breaths, concentrate on the air going in, the air coming out. Don't think about the problem. Just focus on one thing. Focus on your breath. If you are in a place where you can't close your eyes and do deep breath, then take little breath, but then look at something in the room. And let's say you're in office and you're board meeting, and then somebody says something you just want to boil and hit the table and be upset. Take a few deep breaths quietly. You can do the finger under the table, right? You can put your hand under the table, feel your fingers, and you can use your eyes to pick a spot in the room and look at that spot. Look at that, maybe it's the clock. Look at there's no more needle going in, but you know what I mean? Like, look at something. Maybe look at the person that upsets you, and instead of having negative thought, think about 10 things that is wonderful about that person. That's a hard exercise, but it shifts your mind from the negative to the positive. And then, so that's that, 90 seconds to 2 minutes of being upset, and then get out of it. It's more about doing a stop, really. That's what it is. You can have your 90 seconds of anger, but then you say, okay, I got to get out of this, and then do a stop. And however you want to do it, if you're in that room, for example, in a board meeting or whatever, focus on the sound. Listen at all. Don't focus on what the person tells you that upsets you. Focus on all the noise that other people are making. Oh, the chair is squeaking. He's tapping his pen. She's breathing hard beside me. Maybe she's upset too, but that's okay. And, focus on the sound that you hear the furthest, maybe outside the office, you hear some noise, and the closest, your breath, right? So once you stop, and choose to have a different reaction, which is cutting your brain from thinking of the negative emotion you just experienced, then it brings you back. It brings you back to, okay, I'm not as upset as I was, and then you can continue on. And if that continue, well, do it again, and bring yourself back and focus on the different things that are around you, your breath. And if those start coming back when you do that, it's just like a cloud. Imagine that the cloud is just passing by. It's not permanent. It's not part of you. It's just an emotion that you experience, and you choose not to live in that emotion for a long period of time, and you just let it go. Doesn't mean that you don't need to talk to the person because they might have said something that upset you and all that. But then you're not going to go there with a weapon in your eyes.
Yeah.
Go there with, hey, that I was really upset, or I was really disappointing of the way you said these things. And I'm curious of understanding your point of view, right? Instead of saying, you upset me, these things that you say are wrong, and then you're pointing the finger, right? You don't want to do that. I hope that helps.
It does. It's all brain science, really, because we give our emotions much more weight than they deserve.
Oh yeah.
And our emotions are not always honest with us.
Yeah.
So I feel like for my journey, when I had a real anger problem, I had to identify. I had a process of like, okay, I'm angry, right? What just happened? Is that actually the reason I'm angry? Like, what if there was anger is a secondary emotion. So if people are feeling angry, this has been my journey, is you actually have to look beyond the anger to go, were my expectations not met? Were my feelings hurt?
Yeah.
Were they incensed? Like,
where do I feel it in my body sometimes?
oh my goodness, totally. Absolutely. Yeah. But
where
I think that
anger,
we focus on the anger when actually the anger is it's pointing at something else.
Yeah.
It's directing you to the greater issue, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's usually not the other person. It's something inside of us emotionally. At least that's what I found in my journey.
Yeah.
And you mentioned breathing.
Yeah.
It's like you're basically putting your brain back online. All of these tools that you're talking about, they're all neuroscience. When I'm angry, people say you get blind with rage or you lose your mind. It's actually true.
Yeah. Yeah.
A real good, strong anger can literally make your brain just stop, and you're not thinking.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think
you're narrow focus too, right?
Right. So you can't make good decisions. It's not a good place to be. Let me just put it that way. But I think those tools that you're talking about, those are great for any kind of situation.
Yeah.
Like if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling frustrated, it can be. I just wanted to share that the tools that you're sharing are tools that I use because we have to regulate ourselves, right? These are self-regulatory tools that you're sharing, recognizing your own autonomy in the world and how we need to show up. And having gone through, it took a long time to get over anger. And I'm listening to this Crisis to Oasis, and I so understand your heart for people because it's freedom, isn't it, Denise?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, imagine, hey, I used to get angry for that. It's like, not anymore. It's like, wow, I can walk into my mother-in-law's house and I'm joyful. I'm happy to be there. Whatever she tells me about my husband, I'm happy. Yes, like, yes, he's wonderful, like whatever. But also you mentioned something about, and something I had not mentioned is like with positive intelligence, we talk a lot about mental fitness. Mm-hmm. And mental fitness is just like going to the gym. The gym, you do like physical fitness. You go to build a muscle. You go to the gym once and you come back in the mirror and say, I don't have bicep yet. It doesn't work. That shit doesn't work. I'm out of here. I never go to the gym again. But you go consistently 3-4 times a week for 6 months, take a picture before and after, you will see a difference. And that's the same thing with mental fitness, because the way our brain is programmed is we are programmed a lot of time for the negative, for the go to being angry, go to this, go to that. And it's a big neurological pathway in our brain. Mm-hmm. That is the go to. It's easy. It's, that like if you drive, for those that lives in a wintry area where there's lots of snow, it's a lot easier to walk in the track of somebody else than try to go over to another lane, because it's like your car doesn't want to go there. It's easy. That's the pathway. That's where I want to go. Well, what we do with mental fitness is that we say, what if we were to start creating a new road? What if we start creating a new pathways, neurological pathways in your brain that will take you to a new direction, that will take you to the oasis? The path to oasis, you have to dig it. You have to create it. You have to build it. And as you build a positive reaction in your brain, the negative one, you don't have to pay attention to it. And it's like if you put it in a cast, you put that neuron in a cast. And what happens if you have a cast on your arm or your leg? Your muscles go, boom. So same thing with your pathways. Your neurological pathways will atrophy as your default become more positive, the oasis, going to the positive. And eventually that reaction will be like a hairline. It will be like, yeah, whatever, I'm going this way instead. And then that's when you reach your oasis. And it takes years to build that negative pathways. It will be much faster to build the positive one, because you do it with consciousness and you purposely want to change. The negative one has been built over years because it's just the outcome. If you watch the news, if you look at what's going on the internet, it's 90% negative. So it's easy to go there. It's easy to go criticize. It's easy to point a finger. It's easy to feel a victim, because that's all we hear out there in the society. But once you decide to do it differently, once you decide to change the way you think, the way you talk, and the way you act, everything will change.
And isn't it nice to have control of yourself?
Yeah. Like I never get upset. It's very rare. You know, like for me, upset is once in a blue moon. And how often is that? You know, once every 3 years. I don't know.
I think one of the things that has grown for me, and maybe you can give me your input, is having more, I guess, empathy for another person. Like if somebody's really unkind, right? You almost have to think it's almost like how sad that that's how they think they have to be in the world.
Mm-hmm. And you know, how negative their life might have been, and the suffering that these people might have endured, in order to be having to put such a negative shield around themselves to protect themselves. When people are negative, when people are aggressive, it's a protective mechanism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with you, like empathy and love, and even like I'm thinking that there's good in every man and woman on this earth. Everyone. There's good on everyone. Even like the mass murderer has a soft spot somewhere. Might not use it very often, right? But he has a soft spot. Maybe that's his 5-year-old kid. Don't touch my kid, right? I'll go kill 100 people, but my kid, I will love it to death. Like, right? But everybody have a soft spot. And I don't agree with what they do, but I have empathy for the path they have led in order for them to become who they are.
And the beauty of that message is that it goes positively as well, which is what you do, is even if we've lived a life of bitterness and anger, you know, the hope in your message is that we can build those new neural pathways and we can live more positively. Yeah. Now, if you had the opportunity to say 3 really important things, or 3 things that you want someone to take away from our conversation, maybe you've said them, maybe you haven't. What are those 3 key things you'd like to share with my audience?
The first one, and that will be the most important. I won't do 3, 2, 1. The first, I'll do 1, 2, 3. The first one, and I did mention it, is the relationship with the I, the relationship with yourself. You have to, you know, it's not like there's no choice. If you want to be happy in life, you have to be happy with yourself. You have to love yourself unconditionally. Yeah, you might have an extra 10, 20, 50 pounds. Love yourself no matter what, right? Love your body. It might not fit your old clothes that you were wearing 10 years ago. Doesn't matter. Love your body today, and love your mind. Love the things you do. Yeah, you might be negative at time and get angry. The more you love yourself, I bet you the less you'll get angry. Because often we're a reflection. So that's number 1. Love yourself, self-compassion, acknowledge, yeah, things are hard. Things are difficult. And that's okay. Give yourself a hug, right? I'm going through a hard time right now. And treat yourself with love unconditionally. And that's the I. The second one, the second tip is, it's like the gym example, right? You don't build muscle in one week, right? You build muscle over time and over a period of time. If you start to go to the gym and you're not assisted and you just go do this machine, that machine, you won't get as much result as if you are followed by a coach. And then the coach tells you, okay, you do this exercise to do that. And that's the same thing with hiring a coach to support you and help you to build your mental fitness. Because the coach will know the step to take. You will see when you're not in form, right? When you do the exercise not properly. If you have a coach as there, you will reduce injuries. And that's the same thing with the mental fitness. So look for someone that can help you. And the third one is, make sure you sign up for this, ring the bell and sign up for this podcast, because she does amazing things. And support Gina, because she's I love what you bring. I listened to a couple of your podcasts, and your guests are amazing, and I'm so thankful to be here. So make sure you support Gina, and that you share her podcast with others.
Oh, thank you so much for that. Now, Denise, how can people find you?
Well, I have my website is my name, which is Denise@DeniseBelisle.com. I'm on YouTube. I have videos on YouTube, which is at Denise.com. So if it's YouTube.com/@Denise Belisle, not Denise.com, Denise Belisle. And if you don't want to spell my name, just look at the podcast. You just click on, and then it's there. Mm-hmm. And email Denise@DeniseBelisle.com. If you go, search my name and LinkedIn, or search my name and Instagram and search my name, and you'll find me.
Okay, awesome. Well, Denise, thank you so much for coming on the show today and for sharing your passion and your wisdom and your insight. It's one of those wonderful light-bringing, light-giving conversations. And I love the way that you deliver it. I can feel your heart and your passion for people and the work that you've done so that you can help set other people free from these emotional bondages that we live in. Thank you so much for doing the work that you do.
One more thing. If people,
yes.
I talked about the saboteurs. I invite you to contact me to do the saboteur assessment. And I'm offering you a session to go over it so that you can really understand how these saboteurs can interfere in your life.
Awesome. Would you like me to put a link in the
yes,
description?
I will.
Excellent. All right, friends, you heard it from Denise. Today I've been speaking to Denise Belisle. She is a serenity expert. And if you head on over to www.feminineroadmap.com/episode 319, I will have the show notes there. But if you're looking at her lovely face here, just look below. It's right there in the description. The links are there for you. You can get right to that assessment and connect with Denise. Friends, this is one of those things that if you're hearing this podcast, I know I say this a lot, but when you're hearing this podcast, think of it as a God whisper. There's something in this for you. Don't automatically think of the person you want to share it with, although we do want you to share it, but also take in the message that you've received today and think about what one thing can you do today to begin to move yourself closer to that oasis, closer to that peace, closer to that acceptance of yourself. We have such a great opportunity to do more in the world when we're more at peace with ourselves. So friends, take some time, think about these things, journal about it, connect with Denise, see what you can do to move yourself closer to that place of oasis and make midlife just this powerful opportunity. Be more of who you are, my friends. Trust me, you are amazing. Let yourself be all that you can be. Thank you so much for joining us today. I look forward to sharing more empowering people, empowering conversations, tips, and strategies in the weeks to come. Take care, my friends. Bye-bye.